the thing, like the reason I actually led with the discussion of pregnancy and childbearing is because people don't often think about it. I think the vast majority of discussions around female physiology and fat loss relate to, the menstrual cycle or the pill. And this is probably because a lot of personal trainers tend to be like young in their 20s. But I mean, for women who are starting to have kids in their 20s, let's say 25 to 30, and you want to have, a good few kids, or you're spreading them out by a couple of years, you could be talking any time period between 25 and 35, or even 25 and 40, where someone might be, allocating so many of their resources, both physiologically and in terms of their attention and time, to rearing kids. And even if you're, gaining weight gradually during that time, maybe you don't get back to your pre-pregnancy weight, then that starts to really accumulate as a barrier over that period of time. So very clearly, that is something that is a significant challenge for fat loss. Now, with that said, many women don't want to have kids, or many women mightn't have kids until later, and they mightn't be in that position right now. But one of the things that does present a challenge that's relatively constant, for a lot of women anyway, is the menstrual cycle. And
Before you get onto that as well, like even if it is a case that you are trying to, potentially set yourself up correctly, I suppose is the right term, for having children, like being in an extended fat loss period or being excessively lean is probably not going to put you in the most
yeah,
fertile position. So it's like you have to account for that, and that's something that can be really hard, especially for like bikini competitors or people like fitness influencers and whatever else, because you definitely see this a lot more these days, where you'll see people who were clearly like hammering drugs or whatever, like even if it's just like fat burning drugs or fucking, I don't know, whatever. They're just hammering drugs. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, they went through this period of time of like 6 months where they clearly intentionally gained some fat. They clearly intentionally, took out all the drugs. They, stopped exercising as much or excessively, just in an effort to try to get pregnant. And sometimes you see for these people, they're like, oh, I'm really struggling with this. It can take like 2 years to get into a good position with their health. So like, just because, again, I know on social media and stuff, it is portrayed that, oh, you have to be excessively lean and you have to be, fucking huge boobs, huge ass, and whatever other huge lips, whatever fuck it is that, the algorithm favors. That can be antithetical to whatever that word is. That can be against your actual goals of having children. So we have to also think about that stuff longer term. Like it can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to go on a fat loss phase. And well, obviously, again, we will talk about the more nuts and bolts stuff. It's like you do have to have that little bit of a, let's step back here. Like, what are your actual goals in life? Like, and I've said this before. I'm like, I'm not going to do steroids, at least not now, anyway, because I want to have kids. I'm like, I could literally, you think about this for our business, me and you, the two of us would just fucking hammer a load of tren, right? Get huge, get up to fucking 300 pounds, shred it. I'm like, let's do all the drugs. But that goes against both of our goals of having children in the future, So it's like, I'm not going to do that because it potentially sacrifices that thing that I care about more. And as a woman, because of the fact that you, fortunately or unfortunately, have to carry that baby and have to actually be the photocopier, like as harsh and crass as that sounds, it's like you are the one that's actually continuing life on this earth for the human race. So it's like you have a pretty fucking important job. So you actually have to plan ahead a little bit. And I think this is also why women are a bit more mature in general than guys, because guys were actually just fucking stupid. But it is something that, again, just oftentimes does get missed in this discussion of fat loss for women.
Yeah, and with that said, I think another important point on that is like you don't have to listen to that and be all terrified that if you want to have kids, it absolutely requires you to get fatter and fatter over time, because that's often not the case. There's many women who get back to their pre-pregnancy weight and healthy eating, etc., as normal, but it's just to note that it's certainly a barrier, and one that maybe isn't acknowledged as much as some of the other barriers.